welcome to the Inviting Shift podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. This is the Midlife Woman's podcast for a confident and joyful journey. I'm your host, Christina Smith, and twice a week I'll be bringing you topics that impact midlife women the most. I hear it from my clients. They have health concerns around perimenopause and menopause. We have mental and emotional challenges going on that I want to help you manage and work through. I want to talk about how we deepen our relationships and our friendships in midlife, and then what we do when we want more, how we get clear on that, and how we start moving forward confidently and joyfully, because that's what this journey is about. I want midlife women to come together, create a community to revolutionize how we see midlife. Tune in for this week's topic. Welcome back, shifters. It is a new week with a new guest, and I'm so excited to have Genea Barnes here with us. She is a level up coach for entrepreneurs. So when you're thinking in midlife about what is it that I want to do next? Or how do I up level my business? Or how do I know that I want to open a business? Jenae is going to be able to help you level up that entrepreneurship. And I know so many women in midlife are on this journey because tired of working for other people. They want to be able to do their own thing that they're passionate about. So thank you so much, Jenae, for being here with us today to talk about this.
I'm super excited to be here. I have so many things to say.
Awesome. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit more about you and what it is that you do so that we have a clear picture.
Okay, so as you said, I'm a level up coach for entrepreneurs, and I work mostly with women, and I really help entrepreneurs to maximize their time and profits so that they can take their business to the next level. A lot of times, a lot of women who want something different in their life and they're ready to jump into entrepreneurship. They're tired of working for other people. They're like, I've had it. And so they take that leap, and a lot of times they have success in the beginning. And then they hit this place where things are not working or moving forward. You just hit this plateau. And so I help women to break through that plateau. And ironically, a lot of what's going on in those places is some of the things that keep you in those jobs that you hated in the first place, that you got into entrepreneurship to get away from.
Yeah, I get that. Because being an entrepreneur, I can tell you there has been a lot of times where I'm like, maybe I should just go get a job. Feel like I'm putting in so much effort and not getting enough back. And luckily, it's been a while since I've thought that. But I think that there's so many things that people, at least women that I work with, they wonder in the middle of their life, like, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? Whatever they're doing, their job. And our parents raised us, at least my parents did, and a lot of Gen X parents did, that you go get that paycheck, you get the pension, and that's it. You just suck it up for 40 years or whatever, right? And you just do the dang job, or you stay at a specific job for 30 years or 40 years. And I think that not only have the younger generations been changing our minds on this, right? Because there's all these new ways of creating income that isn't a job. But we're getting all these ideas, and we're starting to get at least in midlife, we get a little unsettled, and we're like, really, is this what I'm going to do? Like, I'm just paying the bills. At least that's where it came to for me. It was like, yeah, I'm paying the bills, and yeah, I could be grateful for that. And I cried on the way to work for a year. Even though my job wasn't that bad, the people I worked with were great. Something in me just had me crying for a year. And after about a year, I was like, maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. So how do we know when it's time to consider for more, to maybe make that leap into entrepreneurship?
Well, It's not always about entrepreneurship. It's really about finding your fulfillment. And before I was a coach for entrepreneurs, I helped women in career transition. I helped women find jobs that they love and feel good at the jobs that they're currently in. And so I have a lot of experience with this like transition of career. But one of the things, you nailed it on the head when you said, well, you're feeling like you want to cry every day, even though things are like they're fine enough, right? There's that
Mhm.
place of being fine enough. So some people are really hate their job and they have a terrible boss and all of those things, and they need to leave. But what happens is they keep hopping to another job and they keep having the same problems. And so making those transitions just blindly, and the only solution most people think about is, oh, I get another job, is not necessarily going to be enough to stop that feeling. You might get 2 years in and then you're crying again. I know for me, I would feel sick to my stomach before work was a big
Mm.
one. So little things like your physical body will tell you, but the bottom line is for the human being, for the human spirit to be happy, you have to be growing, pushing, expanding. It is a survival instinct for us. It gives us like the best dopamine highs. And dopamine was literally like created in our system to keep us motivated to evolve, to get better, to grow, because it's a survival mechanism. As we evolve, we are more apt to survive, right? I think life expectancy is around 80 years old, whereas 30, 40 years ago it was 60-ish, 65-ish. So we are evolving, but so often, like you said before, the Gen X generation were raised by boomers and depression era people who just wanted you to be safe.
Mhm.
Just do the job, put your head down. You can be happy when you retire. And what happens is people stop pushing for that growth, for
Mm.
that individual like expansion and challenge. You're just put your head down, you do the thing, and people become more and more miserable. So if you're not in a position that is challenging you and pushing you to grow, you're probably starting to have some depressive stuff. And subconsciously, you start to feel not so good about yourself because,
Mm.
remember the whole participation trophy thing was such a great idea. Everybody gets a trophy. But the thing is subconsciously, if you didn't do your best. And if you get a
Mhm.
trophy for not doing your best, it doesn't make you feel good about yourself. And, you get on all the personal development things and you're looking at all the thought leaders, everyone's talking about feeling like you're enough and loving yourself and all of those pieces. And when you're not pushing and doing your best, you start to feel like you're not good enough. And that's just a natural reaction that happens within people. And it starts to create feelings of not feeling good, not having joy, not enjoying what you do. One of our greatest joys is the joy of achievement. And if we are robbing ourselves by putting our head down and not pushing forward and growing in our life, we're robbing ourselves of joy.
Mm. I've heard somebody say that when we're not growing, we're dying. All
Mm,
things are either growing or they're dying. And like when you look at nature, just the cycles of nature, like we have the bloom and then we have the summer flowers and then they die off. And it's like they were growing, growing, growing. And then all of a sudden they start wilting when they stop growing. And I think that's kind of how how we work as people, even though a lot of us are like, oh, I'd love a job flipping burgers or whatever. And, that'd be so much easier. Yeah, for a moment, right? I mean, but we wouldn't want to do that forever, probably, unless there was like some other challenge, like working with people that, we can grow with or whatever. So I think that you're on to something here because we really need to be growing. When I'm not growing, I feel I get into that really depressive kind of stuck space where nothing makes sense and nothing's good, rather than feeling really accomplished. And by feeling accomplished, I think what I want to bring up, it doesn't mean that you have to go cure cancer or do some like major thing. It could just be opening a side business. And it might be changing jobs or careers. However, I love that you brought up like the people who are like serial job jumpers, right? And it's like, because you're not really clear on what you actually want out of it, or they think, oh, I have a terrible boss here, I'll just go get a new job. Well, you might not have a terrible boss there, but you might have a terrible coworker, or the conditions might be too much for you, or they might expect you to work 80 hours a week, right? Like, so just trading in one I don't like this for another I don't like this isn't always going to help. But I think that's where coaches like you and I come in, where we can really help them start like drilling down to, let's get clear on what you actually want so that we can fulfill the real problem, not just the symptoms of the problem, which I think is where a lot of people go. So I love that you said that our body will tell us. Our body will tell us when it's time to go. And that's definitely where I got to. I think one of the things that we don't do though enough is to listen to our body when it is telling us something. And that can be like one of the many reasons why we don't explore more, right? Like I know that there's people who hate their careers, but they're like, but I went to medical school. Like I became a doctor. I'm the first one in the family to have a college degree. There's no way I could leave my job now. And it usually comes down to this: I make too much money or I've invested too much time to start over now. And what would you
Right.
say to people like that?
Well, that is a big one, right? I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose. I don't know
Mm,
what I could gain. I have no idea what's on the other side, but I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose. And here's the thing. We of course have attachments to things, attachments to prestige, attachments to what people think of us, and that's all pretty normal. And when we are willing to let it go, that's a big indication that you're taking the right step, whatever it is.
mm,
I remember, when I made the switch from helping people through their career transitions and job transitions and all of those things to working with entrepreneurs. And for me, it's funny because even though I was working with these women in their careers, half of my clients ended up being entrepreneurs. They just kept finding me. I was like, okay, I'm listening, I'm listening. But I remember walking down the street when I was making the decision, right? It's like, okay, I have to basically pull back everything in my business, start it from scratch in many ways, and build it up again. And one of the things that I noticed was, well, now if I'm walking down the street, I'm like, I'm attached to my apartment here in New York. I love New York. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. And oftentimes my family has been like, well, why don't you just leave New York and go someplace else, like someplace else that's cheaper and blah, 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 whatever, the story they have in their own mind about what's right for me. But I remember saying I would give up my apartment and I would give up New York to make this work. So if you're willing to give up something you love to make something work, it's a really good indication. It's a good step for you. Now,
mm,
hanging on to those things oftentimes, are the pieces that will prevent us from having the joy, having the things that we love. If I went to medical school, then I put in all this money, this time, this effort, and would it all be a waste? But the thing is you get to take the resilience, you get to take the dedication, the consistency, the work ethic, all of those things, you get to take them with you, and you get to create something new for yourself. And for some people, I just want to say this, that job flipping burgers or whatever, for some people, they've been riding so hard and so fast that their body is in a state of stress and overwhelm constantly. So for some people, taking a very menial job for a year or two just so their nervous system and their body can settle out, so they can actually start to notice what their body's telling them, might be a really good step. But when you're ready, we live in this time where we can create the business we want that fills our heart. It's like that's who you're born to be, and you get to collect all the things you've ever done in your life. You have this beautiful mosaic of your life, and you can create something new with it. You don't have to keep doing the same structure over and over and over again. And, those stories that they told us about working 40 hours in a job, it's not even possible anymore. It doesn't, the average person has, I think, 12 jobs in their adult career, and up 3 to 7 career changes. So, and that's just average. So you can't run that old program anyway. It's not going to work. You're going to have to put yourself out there. And that's a big reason why a lot of people don't do the job transition. Yes, the money, of course, and the security. But what often lies underneath that is putting themselves out there. It's like standing on a pedestal and saying, "Do you want me?" And it feels very vulnerable, and it's very scary at a deep level. And so that's probably even more the true reason why a lot of people don't make those changes or don't go after what they really want. I know for me, way back when, it definitely was. But of course, I thought it was the money. And then the security, I can't give up my
Money is
job.
security for us. Like we equal those things to be the same in a lot of our brains. And you said a few things, but I would just want to point out one is this whole like, now I have to start over. And we're never really starting over though, are we? Because like, no matter what I did before I was in marketing, before I became a coach, like there's skills that we can take with us. There's ways that we learned how to communicate better with people that we're taking with us, right? There's a lot of soft skills that are being taken, but it could also be I organized a calendar for someone. Well, great. Now I can organize my calendar. Great, right? Like, so we're not really starting over. There's a lot of like, I think transferable skills that we just don't see. But those are the things like for me, it was like, well, what parts of my job do I really like? Well, I like talking to people. I like when I help them fix their problems. I like when, I like to teach. And so that's, all of these things I had to start looking at, like, what are the parts that I really love? And what is it that I don't love? Not meaning it's hard for me, because a lot of things that are hard for me are the things that I actually love. Like I love a good challenge. I like how you said like achievement is a big thing for us. As much as we wish we were just like nature and just kind of like hanging out every day, just finding food and shelter, there is a part of us that likes to achieve things, that likes to, tick those things off our to-do list and everything, if they feel worthwhile. And the other thing that you said that I think is really important, so if you see me looking away, I was just taking notes because I have a menopausal brain, that rest is important. Taking that menial job might be great for you. It might be that your body needs rest, and whatever you're doing right now is way too stressful for your body. And I know none of us want to admit that, because I was really sick for a long time, and I was like, how can I be sick? My job's fine, that's fine, that's fine. But it was like all of the stress I was putting on myself to make sure that all of that stuff was getting done. Sure, could I do it all? Yeah, but my body sure as hell didn't want to do it. And I was just constantly in that masculine energy of like pushing forward, pushing forward, pushing forward. And I love how you say, maybe if you need a moment, like I've thought about this many times, maybe I just need a year to like volunteer at the dog shelter full time or something, or get like a low paid job doing something that will bring me joy or at least less stress, so that I can be more clear when I move forward, so that I can really start thinking about what brings me joy, what is less stressful, or the right balance of stress, right? That I can move forward. I think a lot of people don't see rest or slowing down as an important part, but that, I mean, again, if we go back to nature, when the flowers aren't getting water, they're not going to bloom, right? And that's okay. That's their dormant stage. That's them going, I'm going to grow bigger in a week when we get a storm or whatever. So that we can start understanding that rest is actually part of the process, or slowing down, even if you don't rest, but slowing down can be part of the process. And I think a really important process, because in order to get into that intuitive spot of ourselves, right, our own inner wisdom, we kind of have to slow down, because when we're really, really busy, we're not really hearing all of the wisdom that our body has to offer us, which I think is really important, because it is important that we keep exploring. My husband talks about retirement all the time, and I'm like, I don't know what language that is. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the time in my life where I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to rock in this chair all day and that'll be great. Maybe if I have grandchildren or great grandchildren, that'll change if I find other things to do. But like, I want to be passionate and growing and constantly, not constantly doing something, but constantly feeling like I have this purpose, or I'm clear on who I am and how I want to get things done, or how much stuff I want to get done. So for me, it's like constantly exploring. I have this business, which I plan on running for the rest of my life. But there's also other things that I have, like, oh, I would love to sell art because I have so much of it, right? Like, I would love to do this. I would love to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons why I always am constantly exploring. But I know that there's a lot of reasons of why we need to keep exploring. I see so many people who, like, they retire from their job and they're so excited about retirement, but like a month in, they're like, now what?
Right.
Because they never took that time to do the exploring while they were still working. I think that that's an option, right? How many people start an entrepreneurship while they're still working full time, but a couple hours here, a couple hours there?
Yeah. There are so many things in what you said. One of the things when we talk about rest and that balance. Now, your creative brain cannot work. It cannot function when you're stressed. So if you are in a perpetual state of stress because, you've been achieving and go, 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 there are signs, you're trouble sleeping, you wake up and your brain starts spinning. um, and what happens is your brain is constantly in prevent and protect mode. So I have to prevent myself from losing this job. I have to protect my family. And when you're in that space, you are literally like a warrior ready, and your focus is very narrow. And to create something new in your life that's going to be different than what you've ever had, you have to open your focus, and you cannot do it from a state of feeling like you're lacking anything. So if you're worried about not having enough money, enough security, enough time, that's all a state of lack. And you cannot access the creative parts of your brain, which will give you the roadmap to creating the joy that you want. And so, yeah, whatever you need to do to get the nervous system to calm down, if it's take 6 months off, if it's, pull back on time. But when you're looking at that next job transition, and this is what happens so often, it's like, oh, I get laid off. So then I have to prevent and protect, make sure
Ooh,
that the
and we
whole
get in
world
that
doesn't,
panic mode, right? Of
right?
risk. Yeah.
So you end up getting another job just like the one before, because you can only recycle what you've already done when you're in prevent and protect mode. You
Mm,
cannot create something new. So if you're wanting a career transition, you've got to allow yourself to get creative and really feel into what you want. And you have to do it anyway, even when your system is like 5 alarm fire, like, no, don't do that. Don't start a business. You're gonna fail.
scary.
What if we
Yeah.
fail? So that place of really allowing yourself to dream and feel into what's right, and not listening to the parts of you that are they're just trying to keep you safe. But you
Mhm.
cannot create something new from those places. You will only repeat what you've
Mm,
done before. So you'll trade one crappy job for another crappy job. You will start a business and ultimately you'll end up having the same problems, except they'll be compounded because now everything is on you. You can't blame it on the boss. You can't blame it on anybody else. And
mhm.
that's why a lot of entrepreneurs lean into coaching more so than people with regular jobs, because they're like, I'm going to lose everything unless I figure this out. So you've got to step into it. And also that same thing, why you get in and you might have some level of success with your business, and then you hit this plateau and you can't get it past, is because your brain, you're just recycling the old stuff.
Mm.
And to do something, to get something new and different, you have to do something new and different. So if you're in protect and prevent mode, it's not going to happen.
I love that so much because when I went into business for myself, I was like, I'm going to go into business for myself. I'm going to take hikes on Fridays. I'm going to be able to do whatever I want. I can make my own schedule. But I had the same mindset. So I was still working 50, 60 hours a week because now I was justified. It was for me. Right. And so I started that pattern again of putting myself into so much stress. And I think that what's really important to mention because I talk to midlife women, hello, midlife women, perimenopause and menopause and the discomfort that we have. I have anxiety much higher than I ever had before, moments of anxiety where it's much higher. It just happened to me Sunday. And now looking back at it, I can see that it was because there's this major decision I had to make in my business that I knew was going to upset some people and other people not so much, but I just so anxious around this one decision. And I also knew that when I'm in anxious kind of state, that is not the time for me to be coming up with solutions. That is not the time for me to be fixing things. In fact, my husband, like I used to tell him I was anxious and he would come up with all these questions and I'd be like, whoa, like, please stop with the questions. I'm feeling anxious already. And what I've learned is I don't make any decisions and I don't have any deep thoughts when I'm in that anxiety period because I do not get anywhere. So, coming and starting a new business or looking for a new career or a new job just because you're having an anxious moment is probably not the best idea. What we have to figure out is like what's causing that anxiety, right? Because Sunday I would have like pitched my business and been like, that's it, it's too much work. But it's because I was in the wrong state of mind to be thinking about it. So once I calmed down, I made this big decision. Today I woke up and I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't get to the point of what you said of like calming down my nervous system and going, we're safe, we're fine, the world is fine, there's no lions chasing me, we're all good. And bringing that nervous system down. And then I could make a solid choice from like a solid place, from a grounded place, rather than I'm in panic. Now I got to just grasp at whatever it is. And I think a lot of people do this when they're like, they're in that panic stage when they're deciding what it is that they want to do for their business. I know people who are like, oh, well, I really wanted to do this one business, but that just seems so hard. So it'd be easier just for me to become a social media person, or to use this skill that I had before and just do that, like do web development. I know I want to do art, or I want to do this other big business that seems very different than me, but this is more comfortable. So I'm going to go there. And then what happens is they get into this business and they realize that they're not that passionate about it. Yeah, they can do it, but they're just trading that one meh for another meh, because they didn't really jump into what it is that they really, really want and what they're actually passionate about. So, how do you help your clients get clear in a space that feels good, rather than from that panic spot? Because I'm certain that you must have clients like you said, I just lost my job. Yes, I got to start a business, but I should use my old skills that I hated using, rather than doing this thing that I'm passionate about.
Well, just because you can do something. Like years ago, I was a bartender and I was really strong and I could stack kegs in the keg room. And I used to, after a little while, I wanted to prove myself. And after a while, I was like, oh, just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. So even
Hmm.
though I was strong enough to do it, it taxed my body and opened me up for possible injury at a much greater rate than the guys that were, you know, 8 inches taller than me and massively more strong than me. So, first of all, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But I
Hmm.
can share this is, if you're in total chaos panic, this will take a lot longer to do. But I can share a little trick with everybody for helping you make decisions or helping you come up with solutions. And this transforms your mind a little bit so that you can see things from that broader perspective that's going to give
Hmm.
you the more creative solutions. Do you want to do it with me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so everybody, like, pick a spot in front of you, slightly above eye level, just a dot. Could be a spot on a wall, could be a branch on a tree, wherever it is. Like, stop for a moment, sit down, and really focus on it. And now that's your problem that you're trying to solve, and really pour all your focus into it. Like that spot is everything, the only thing you're aware of. And think of it as, if it's, I have to figure out what to do next in my life. And you're just focused so hard on that problem. You probably get that little crease in between your eyes because you're just so focused on the problem. And now just slowly start to expand your vision, the periphery, like just widen your vision so you can still see the spot. But now, like, you can see like the things that it's almost like you can see wrapped around behind your head. Your
Hmm.
vision is so expansive. You see the spot and your vision is so expansive, and just hold that position and start to allow the information to come in. So there'll be learnings that'll come in, or maybe an insight or an aha, and
Hmm.
just hold your gaze in that place with that expanded vision and start to allow the possibilities to come in.
Hmm.
And you can do this for, sometimes you'll get an insight in 30 seconds. Sometimes you'll get like 10 insights over the course of 5 minutes, but just staying in that expanded view. Because, the reality is we get what we focus on.
Hmm.
So when you're in that expanded view and you've put that problem as a tiny little dot, but now you're focused on everything that's not the problem,
Hmm.
which allows the new information to come in. And what happens usually is we are so focused on the problem that we can't see anything else.
Hmm.
And so if you're in just sort of a mild place of stress or anxiety, just sitting in that position with your vision expanded like that will help to calm you down a little bit and
Hmm.
start to allow you to see things that you couldn't see when you were so narrowly focused on the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great trick. I think that's really important. It was funny too because I was like staring at this little spot on my blinds. I don't know why it's there, and now I'm like, oh, I should clean that. That should be cleaned, and right, like my brain can go into the like fixing it mode. But once I expanded, it was like there's so many other colors in my room, and there's like a lot of other joy. And I think that that really just sums up how we can get so hyper focused
Mm-hmm.
on like this thing is a problem rather than it just is, right? And how big of a problem is it? This spot is like really tiny compared to how big my room is. And it's like, of course, if we're zeroed in on that one challenging spot, it's going to feel like the whole room is a challenge. But
Right.
if I can really start seeing that how much more is involved, it really lightened it up. Great trick, Genea.
Yeah, well, and also you can take this like in a expanse of time as well, because right, time is such a big piece that I focus on with people. Um, we think like, oh my God, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. I have to meet my deadline, and then, oh, you're just like so full of like anxiety about it. And then if you stop and think like, okay, I know this is important, and I'm going to keep working towards it in 5 years, is this thing going to make a difference in the grand scheme if I finished it in 1 hour or 2 hours?
Yes.
And when you can look at it from, again, it's a more expansive view, then you're like, okay, maybe it's better that I slow down and take an extra day to do this, because it's a foundational piece for my marketing or my strategy, or maybe it's my resume if I'm going to look for a job, or writing a cover letter. Like if I just saw the job posted right now and now I have to write a cover letter and like
Oh, right.
maybe,
Got to be the
you
first one
know,
in.
right, I'm the first one in. But if you had written it and then slept on it and revised it and then sent it, your chances would be better.
I love that so much because that is so true in my business. And I used to be like, here's a deadline, have to meet it, said I was going to finish this today. So then, and I hear the words like done is better than perfect. And I believe that there's something in between, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, I can get it done. But like if it's a lead magnet or something for my business, am I going to be doing that again in 2 months because I didn't like the way that this turned out or I didn't give it enough energy? It doesn't really feel like me. Like, is this something that I'm just going to do over and over again because I'm not giving it an extra 20% of time now? It means that I'm going to have to give it 400% in the future. And so, like, really starting to slow down and get into that more feminine energy of like, does this feel right? And in that calm space of like, does this feel right? And I can't tell you how many times in the last year I've changed things because they didn't feel right for me. I had one webinar that I was doing twice. The first one I did it how a coach told me with all these slides and did all the things, and oh my god, it was like slide by slide. By the time I was done with that webinar, I was like, something doesn't feel right about this for me. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And if you've ever been to one of my webinars, most of the time they're more experiential and less like, let me show you a bunch of slides. And so the second one I did completely, I was like, I need to throw that out and just figure it out. And there was a part of me, I was like, you're too busy. You don't have time to figure this out. Just do what you said you were going to do, right? But instead, I got a lot more intuitive about it. And I did something a little bit more experiential. It gave the same point, and it was it felt so much better in my soul. So I think that there is something to be said about it feeling really good. And we can't get to that point, like to your point, we can't get there when our nervous system is on high anxiety or, high stress, because we're only seeing that one dot, like what is the problem, rather than seeing like all of the opportunities of like, oh, how can I make this my own then? Rather than like always looking for the right answer externally, which is where I tend to go when I'm anxious. Like somebody else must have the answers because I don't. And it's like, I do, if I could calm the hell down.
Right. Well, and that's the piece, right? Focusing with that perfectionist, like trying to get it done. That perfectionist thing is hyper focused on the problem, right? I noticed at this period out of place, and oh my goodness, I forgot to put a 2 in my like something, and freaking out about that kind of stuff. But that's again that narrow focus. So when you can pull it back and make it done well, but from the expanded bigger picture of
Mhm.
what you're trying to create. So, if those women who are looking for a career transition and you're figuring out your resume, you're figuring out how to write the best cover letters and all of those things, you've got to look at it not this particular job, but what is the job I'm trying to create? What is the situation I'm trying to create? So, looking at it from a bigger perspective. For your business, one of the things that I really sucks up people's times. They're doing all these strategies. Oh my goodness, I have to write a newsletter every week or 2 times a week, and I don't know what to say, and blah blah blah. But what a lot of business owners don't, they don't even know how to write copy, and that actually creates the impact and the result that they're trying to create. They just know they're supposed to write a newsletter, and they don't know why. They think it's just, it's so people will get to know them and like them and whatever, but they don't understand the bigger strategy. So they're doing all these little tiny things all over the place that they don't have any understanding of the bigger concept of how it all fits together, and they're wasting a ton of time. It's so amazing when you break this stuff down for people and you get to really like look at what is the purpose of this and where does it fit in. Oftentimes some of the strategies are great, but maybe they're not accurate for that place of business right now. Maybe it's a strategy for, you know 2 years ago, if you're not, or 2 years from now, if you're not bringing in the income that you need right now, focusing all your time and effort on your social media. Social media is a long game if you don't have social media built up. So spending a lot of time that you could be working on something that would bring you income to create beautiful posts is not a great way to spend your time.
Hmm. I love this, and I think it leads right into your freebie that you're offering, a free gift. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is simple. It's the 3 secrets to maximize time and profits that the business gurus are not going to tell you, right? They'll tell you all the strategy, and you're probably trying to do all of them all of the time and spread so thin. But
Yeah.
there's a few secrets in there. And so you can get this at ideservethisgift.com.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you're listening, just do it. Open up your browser, type in ideservethisgift.com. It feels good to type it in, right? And sign up and grab that guide. And if you're a business owner and you're doing most of the work yourself, this is definitely going to support you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love this conversation so much. The biggest thing I have gotten from it is that um, to be really grounded when we're making these decisions and not doing it from a place of panic, which it can be very easy, especially when it comes to money and business and all those things that a lot of us have wounds around or shadows around. And so just making sure that you're in a really connected place with yourself when you're making these decisions. And if you're not, you can always check out Jenae's links below and just check out some more of her stuff so that you might want to work with her, or just, have a conversation with her to see how you can get more grounded so that you can make these really good decisions. And then she's going to be able to help you level up as an entrepreneur if that's the path that you choose. If not, I'm sure she's got really great references for people who can help you in other areas as well. Thank you so much for being here today, Jenae. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. This is fun. I could talk about this stuff all day long.
I know. If only people would listen to podcasts that were 10 hours long, right?
If only.
Yeah, hopefully y'all got a taste, and we talked about, when it's time to explore more and what you can explore more. And I loved Jenae's little trick about looking at the spot and then opening your vision. So hopefully that trick will help you as well. I hope that you'll try it a couple times this week and see how it works out for you. But thank you, shifters, for tuning in. We'll see you again soon. Are you tuned in and you're like, I wish I had a group of women that I could have these conversations with so I could hear their real lives, how they're experiencing these challenges, how they're getting to the celebrations, how they're building a journey that is more joyful and confident? Well, I got you. I have created a community called the Modern Midlife Mentorship, where we have a modern perspective over what aging and what we look like aging looks like today. It doesn't have to be sitting in a rocking chair. In fact, there are so many women out there doing so many amazing things, as you can hear with my guests on the podcast. But in this modern midlife mentorship, we're going to bring a community together to rethink about what midlife can be like, really dive deep into the topics that are impacting us, like our health, our emotions, our mental health, our relationships, and that big piece of what do I want next for myself. So if you are interested in being in a community, making more connections with women in midlife, and getting all the tools you need to really move through the challenges and get to those celebrations, then I want you to click the button below for the Modern Midlife Mentorship. Learn more, reach out if you have any questions, and I would love to see you there. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed the episode and that you were able to get something out of it. If that's true, then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, every week this season, I am going to be releasing more. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. It all really helps us get seen by more women so that we can really revolutionize how we see aging and how we see ourselves while we're aging, so that we can age more joyfully and confidently. I hope you're gentle with your humanness, especially in midlife. Bye.